AFCFTA. I will contextualize my brief intervention on public service and Better Africa, Better World within the context of the AFCFTA. That implementation of the AFCFTA is the business of all of us. It's the business of all of us. Well, and I think the AFCFTA is a perfect vehicle for us to be able to bring this mantra into fruition. Because what the agreement is doing, it's opening up things that were previously closed. The boundaries that were there will have to, over time, be removed. So the borders will have to allow not only goods to flow, services to flow, but also people. If we are going to keep some of the rules of origin high, if we say 60% must be African content or 70%, whatever product comes from China that does not meet that requirement, it will not be traded under preferential terms. Duties will be applicable. So all of these things are currently being negotiated. On the tariff schedules, 90% almost complete. On the rules of origin, about 88 point something percent. Only outstanding matters in auto and sugar and clothing and textile. But good progress is being made and the team continues to negotiate. To know also, number 3, that the world is not standing still and waiting for this thing to succeed. They'll do whatever it can to stop it, to derail it, and to frustrate it. And we are already seeing those types of efforts. So we need to be attentive and alert to these machinations so that as a public sector we know how to respond. But we cannot respond if we don't have the knowledge, if we don't do the research, if we don't have the deep insights that we need in order to inform policy making and also better advise our principals.
Ke tsela tša badimo tše ke tšona polelo tša setho di ile ga maoto nakunyela molete mohlaela thupa ke re ke tša bomantšhege le bomatwetwe a ona gore nka dingala ba ntseba ba ntšhaba
ke topa habedi ke topa hararo ke tshwenye a ke ipone makopo ke re ke topa habedi ke topa hararo ke tshwenye a ke ipone makopo.
The poetry offering, which I think was not just a performance, but a call and a reminder and a conversation to our souls of who we are, and as a reminder for us to go back and remember who we are as Africans. And it's not just about that, but essentially about the African cosmology that we have forgotten. And the reason why this is important, and the reason I'm mentioning it, because any success of the African Continental Free Trade Area will be premised on us remembering who we are. Because the minute we remember who we are, that is going to inform the choices that we make in terms of consumption, in terms of the products we will decide to put our monies on.
Ke topa habedi ke topa hararo ke tshwenye a ke ipone.
All of us are leaders in our own right. All of us will take responsibilities. We can initiate, we can innovate things to build a better Africa.
We know who to talk to, but also, unfortunately, because the developed world spends quite a significant amount of money on researching the continent, they end up knowing much more about the continent than we do. So we need to know the continent better, and the continent also needs to know us better.
Botu dictates that we value the being, not the material. the material. Again, that goes back to African cosmology, right? It goes back to African philosophy. What do we value? And then when we go back to those values, those will certainly inform us in how we as South Africa interacts with the rest of the continent. It also will be a reminder to ourselves and how do we interact with ourselves at home. So are we Eurocentric? Eurocentric values the material, or are we African, which actually values the humanity, the spirit, botho ba hao, moya wa hao? And then if that is fine, then the material will follow. It will reflect from there. And then also ultimately, even with that, how does it then inform the kind of economic decisions and economic decision-making processes that we will also assume as well?
Youth can able to innovate, SMMEs, the cross-border.
So now Africa will never achieve its aspirations if the full potential of young people is not achieved. On a continental, national and localized level, the youth voice has to be part of it at each and every step of the way.
History inherits, future create.
Young people should be trained and mentored.
One of the things that we do in our work is that we design and facilitate ESD programs for SMMEs, trying to help them to be absorbed into the operating environments and value chains of large corporate players in the economy. We face a lot of pushback. The challenge that we have is that we face a lot of pushback from corporates, and the uptake of new ESD programs is declining. The goal of these ESD programs would be to help corporates expand their reach and impact in enterprise supplier development, because the law requires them to do so, as per the BEE Act. The BEE Act should be amended to compel and enforce compliance through harsher penalties. The penalty for non-compliance should outweigh the cost of compliance. When it hits the pockets of large corporations, then we would begin to see a shift.
So during the course of this year, you are going to be hearing a lot from us with regards to how we can bring public sector together so that we can mobilize the rest of society to implement the AFCFTA.
Ngikidinga ubuhle namandla we-Afrika konke lokhu kungaphakathi kimi.
I've traveled the better part of the world. I've been everywhere under the sun. I've seen the worst, I've seen the best, but that still remains in me, proud to be an African.
Ngikuqala ngamehlo wethando nethabo ngombana ngim-Afrika wamambala. Our people don't speak like this anymore. Our people don't think like this anymore. Instead of caskets, we used our mother tongue to bury our ancestors. Mobu mobu, molora moloreng, gele marapona, awele benyeng.